Thanks for staying with us on the SA Sports Show. Time to talk footy. The SANFL, of course, we're into round 2, mate, and it is up and about and hard to predict. So we thought, let us go to the genius of the SANFL. Luke Marchioro joins us. Luke, how are you, mate?
Good, thanks, guys. Thanks for having me.
Mate, always a pleasure, mate. It was a big weekend of footy. So some surprises, but no different to the first round. We're almost like AFL, like you can't get a feel for it.
Absolutely. It's a really even competition this year, and the SANFL have really stamped their footprint on Good Friday footy in this state. And 4 games with really, really good crowds around the place, and some really interesting results as well across the weekend.
Unbelievable results, mate. Not unbelievable, but like Phil said, I mean, I tried to pick winners in the first round, and I thought, oh, hang on, I'm a bit out of kilter here, and I was worse on the weekend.
Worse on the weekend.
Yeah, teams like South Adelaide and, North Adelaide, who surprised me, got beaten by the Dogs.
Yep.
Luke
was at that game.
Was there, and Central District, for their credit, came out of the blocks and just jumped North Adelaide. North Adelaide were a little bit shell-shocked. I don't think North were fantastic in round 1 against Westies, but that form probably looked a little bit better with their Westies result on the weekend. But Central District have recruited really well. They've recruited for need, some really tall timber. So Dale Pearce and Hugo Munn in their forward line and Bryn Little in their back line. Yeah. It's given them that bit of extra height, and it's just freed up some other players. So, Aidan Grace and Nicholas Lang aren't playing tall in their forward line. They're being able to crumb, and, Justin Hoskin and Jez McLennan are giving them some really good ball users off half back as well. Yeah. So they've added some depth to their squad, and Billy McCormack missed through suspension on the weekend. Last year he missed. They lost both of those 4 games he was out. Yeah. This year he's out, and they've been able to cover that. So they're going to be around the mark this year, especially on that ground, the big ground, which a lot of teams have struggled at over the past couple of seasons.
Including North Adelaide. I don't think North have got a great record out there. At Elizabeth. I'm not sure. I think it's North Adelaide that have got a bit of a dodgy.
I'll tell you what was most impressive for Central, I agree with everything you're saying, they've recruited for need, was that their players were all on task. So that they stuck to their roles, they didn't do anything they weren't supposed, and they were very physical. So they used the size of the ground, but they just shut North down. They got first used at stoppages. They dominated the game. I mean, North came back at them a couple of times, but I don't feel like Centrals were ever really threatened, were they? Not
at all. And speaking with a lot of people involved in Central District, they're a little bit like these old premiership teams that Paul Thomas played in. They're very hard-nosed and they're very well organised behind the ball, and that's part of that leadership that we're talking about. They've got Jared Schiller through their midfield, who's guiding their younger midfielders through, and then between Hoskin and McLennan in their back 6, it gives them a little bit more organisation as well behind the ball, and that was one thing that I really noticed. I think they were 17-4 inside 50 in the first quarter, and it's just part of the way they set up, that every time North got it out, it was hat kicks to a set-up defensive system, and that's something that they haven't had, is that leadership to guide those younger guys through over the last couple of seasons as well. Yeah.
South Adelaide. Now, South Adelaide
got the Eagles.
I just like the look of South Adelaide. They got Skinner back, and I think he was very high on the best players again on the weekend. Brooksby. Matt Rose is now the skipper, is back playing. I think they're a good side. I think South are the ones for me at the moment. Anyway, and Eagles are no pushover, although you tell me, Luke, that they may have had a couple missing.
Well, South Adelaide last year, I think, lost 4 games by less than a goal, and they just missed the finals. So I think they were a little bit in terms of bit of bad luck, and also with some injury stuff. Bryce Gibbs missed a lot of the year last year. They obviously lost Sam Skinner. They lost Jai Menzies in the mid-season draft. So been able to recruit some of those guys, and been able to get some guys healthy as well. So obviously Matt Rose relinquished for the captaincy this year. Yeah. So he's trying to get himself healthy. They've got Bryce Gibbs back, and they've added some quality tools in Sam Skinner coming back, and Zach Sproul from GWS as well, who was really, really good for them as well. And the Eagles are around the mark as well. Still missing Riley Knight, still missing Daniel Menzel, still missing Jimmy Tumpus. They've got some quality to come back into that side as well. Yeah. Rory Lehman especially is a key defender too. When he's played, they've generally won over the last couple of years. So those 2 sides I think will be around the mark, and it was a really even game, and going with the wind basically, those 4 quarters were probably split pretty evenly 2-2. So it was a good game of footy, and I think those 2 sides will be around the mark.
Hey, look, I'm a Marty Matner fan, mate, and he's got them up and going at the moment, Sturt. So North are a bit Geelong-like, other than Geelong's form on the weekend, but what do you reckon the secret is to Sturt early in the season? They've had a couple of good wins.
I think they found a little bit of balance with their midfield mix. We've known they've got these really hard-nosed players like Tom Lewis and James Battersby, but obviously now they've got Patrick Wilson back and healthy, and he's a goal-kicking outside mid for them, and also Marty Frederick, who they brought over from Port Adelaide as well, gives them a little bit of leg speed, which they haven't had. Add him and Charlie Parker, who came back from the Western Bulldogs as well. It gives them some real line-breaking options that they haven't had through their midfield. Their grunt work's always been really good, contested footy, clearance work, but they've just got a bit more outside inside flair now as well, and they're being able to, turn that into scores, and that's part of the reason why they'll be around the mark this year. But they've just got to try and keep those core guys healthy, because they haven't done the last couple of seasons.
Where are Norwood struggling, mate? I mean, last year's premiers, and they had 2 big losses at the start of the season. So that was uncharacteristic for them.
I don't think it's anything to panic about. I think they were 1-3 last year and fell over the line in that game against the Crows where they kicked goals late. Matty Panos is due back in round 4, so a couple of weeks away. And same with Jackson Callow as well, who's a key forward that they haven't had the last couple of years as well. He'll give them another avenue to goal. So it's a little bit of that forward firepower that they're missing at the moment as well. And we see it every year with these premiership teams. They always lose quality off the top of their list. So guys like Jay Rantnell's not there at Norwood this year. So getting those other guys back into the group and getting them reacclimatised to playing footy, integrating new guys in is always a challenge as well. We saw it with the Eagles last year, lost a lot, struggled to get going at the start of the year. It's the same thing in Norwood this year. They're just sort of building into the year and integrating
I'd be
guys.
very wary of Norwood later in the year.
Oh, absolutely. I think the secret is not to jump too early. I mean, we're talking 2 rounds. It's like people hammering in the AFL about sides losing a couple of games this early. You're a bit early to jump. But what gets me, mate, is I think this is a really, really good season that's about to unfold here, because you've got teams like South Adelaide, who lost a few close ones last year, who are going to threaten. I think there's no doubts about that. Sturt are going to threaten. North are going to be around the mark again. Norwood are going to be around the mark. It's a pretty exciting... Adelaide who had 2 huge wins. So it's going to be a really good year.
And even, like we've spoken about Central District already, but West Adelaide are on the improve as well under Adam Hartlett. So, haven't added a ton of depth, but they're kids that didn't get drafted. A kid by the name of Kobe Ryan's been fantastic the first couple of weeks. They've added some younger guys through as well. So they're going to be not the pushovers that they've been the last couple of seasons as well. I think it's a really even competition. I think, probably 8 teams can play finals, and you really don't know what you're going to get with these AFL sides. When they're full strength, no one will beat them. But if they've got a few out, all of a sudden they become vulnerable, and it's a bit of the luck of the draw in that sense as well. But I think it's a really open and even competition, as you've seen by a lot of the recruiting across the competition.
Well worth going down for a look.
Absolutely,
I agree, mate. I've got Glenelg this year tipped as my sleeper. I think they're the ones that are going to surprise it. New coach, it's going to take a while to get into the system.
No, I think you're right. I think they'll be a sleeper.
And they've got a lot of talent. What do you think?
I think we've heard a lot about Glenelg because they've got a talented list and a talented group of players, but under a new coach, it's going to take a little bit of time. But we've seen what their match winners can do. Lockie Hosey kicked 5 1/4, won them that game on Friday night. So they've got guys like that can bob up. They've got McBean, they've got Partington, they've got guys that can stand up and win in games of footy. So again, they're going to be one of these teams to be really dangerous and watch out for.
Hey mate, they obviously got this weekend off because the gather round coming in, but then it gets pretty exciting again. 22nd of April they start up again. It's an interesting one because they play on a Saturday, a Sunday, a Monday and a Tuesday. So that's kind of a new thing.
Yeah, the Monday night Anzac Eve game between Glenelg and Woodville West Torrens is a new addition to the fixture, and I think that'll be a really, really good game.
Where's that, Luke?
At Glenelg. Woodville was out of commission with some of the renovations that are going on there for the first 5 weeks, so that'll be a really good crowd at Glenelg. Glenelg, those night games have drawn really well, and those 2 teams have been pretty keen rivals over the last 5 or 6 years, especially playing in grand finals and the like. So I think that'll be a really good game. The grand final rematch is traditional on Anzac Day as well between North and Norwood. Will be another good game of footy too. So plenty to look forward to over that weekend coming back after the gather round.
It's a strange one, isn't it? Because the Monday is a work day, Tuesday's the holiday. Normally you have the Monday off. So when you look at the draw, you go, well, Tuesday, Norwood play North. At Norwood in the middle of the day, that's a bit of but the Monday night game fits in. So they've actually drawn it really nicely.
Yeah, and I think it flows on a little bit with what they've done at AFL level with Richmond and Melbourne as well in that Anzac Day game. So it sounds like the SANFL are going to try and do that as well, which will be really good. And I think it'll be a really good spectacle under lights at the Bay.
Lucky, just quickly then, let's go through them, mate. Centrals v Adelaide, who are you going for?
I think Centrals can cause an upset at the Ponderosa there. I think the Crows will have a few out. They travel the next day and play, so obviously they take emergencies and that as well. So I think Centrals can cause a bit of an upset there. Kyle Pressbury potentially back for them as well.
All right, Westies and South Adelaide?
I think South will be too strong there. I think they're building really nicely. The bye will help their older bodies as well, so I think they'll come back and win that game.
Sturt and Port?
I'm going to pick Sturt. I think Port are a little bit hit and miss in terms of what they've got at AFL level. If they they're pretty healthy at the moment. If they get guys back, I think they'll be around the mark, but I think Sturt will be too good in that game.
And the big one is Glenelg Eagles.
I like the Eagles. I really do. I think they're building quite nicely. They'll probably get Riley Knight back. They'll get Daniel Menzel back. So that's a little bit of quality there. And they've got Rowie back. They've got a couple of kids coming through. Max Lister, Luke Beacon, Zach Buck, Jordan Lukac in the ruck. So they've added some younger kids to go with their own experience, and it's given them a bit of a lift this year as well.
Yeah. Last one, North.
I'm going to pick Norwood. I just think that it's a bit, grand final, big stage, off a bye. I think they need to play well and try and win that game. And, 0-3 is not a death knell for their season, but it's going to be really hard to, push for the top 3 if you start 0-3, especially with the way some of these other teams like South and the Crows have started as well.
Luke, always good to get you in, mate, get your words of wisdom. So weekend off for the SANFL. Next week, there are some massive games. Stay with us. Still, a little bit more to come.